week we were discussing about lawlessness in schools, and we are still staying within the realms of our students, our young ones, especially those who are in secondary school, because we are actually looking at what is still trending, so to say. Remember the college in Lagos State where somebody was bullied, and in the process almost turned into cultism here and there, even though police are still investigating. But we know that somebody have lost his life, so to say. But that's not what we are looking at per se, but we are looking at bullying in schools generally, the way out. And we have a mother who is also an educationist, who must also must have been following the trend, and in the course of our experience as an educationist come across something like this, because bullying is not just coming onto the front burner, but depends on how you manage it in schools that it happens, how sincere and how committed is the school authority, then how do parents actually try to, what should they do to curb it? How do we train a child to withstand bullying and stand on his or her feet? All this we want to look at, and that's why we are bringing to the front burner bullying in schools, the way out. And I'm happy that we have Mrs. Ronke Shuyombo here with us. She's the essay to the governor on education. Mrs. Shuyombo, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Maybe I should just say thank God it's Friday because you are here. You know what I mean? The other time you couldn't make it, but this time you are here.
And I really apologize for not being able to meet the last time, please. Thank you so much for inviting me this morning.
Yeah, Charity.
Okay, madam, in those days when we talk about bullying, we categorize it to those teachers who beat you to some point that you have some injuries on your body. But nowadays, bullying is associated to students, pupils, and to me it's somehow worrisome and it calls for concern. Why do you think bullying is shifting from adults now to children?
Thank you very much, madam. I must say, when it comes to bullying in schools, bullying is when a child is being maltreated, not on a one-off. It has to be a continuous process, and the child must be able to show that this particular group, they've been doing this for so long. And that's why the key thing we're always talking about is every school must be able to create an awareness of what makes bullying, of what makes a child to be bullied. Let every child know how they can be bullied. Let them understand what to do when they're being bullied. And the key thing also is, as a state, you will see that the most important policy, and that's something, I mean, I know we're talking about Lagos now, you will see that the most important policy is child protection and safeguarding policy, which you never write it by yourself. Every parent sending children to schools must be able to pass the safeguarding and child protection policy. Within that, you have the anti-bullying policy as an appendix to that particular policy. And it's a very compulsory policy if you're running a school. So with that, what are the key things there? The children must be able to know the designated person that they're supposed to report to. Bullying can come from anybody. Bullying can be an abuse. A child can be abused by the driver that is dropping the child to the school. A child can be abused by house help. A child can be, maybe the house help is bullying the child. And sometimes it can be friends in the school that are bullying the child. It can be a teacher that is bullying the child, stigmatizing and so on. So the key thing is there, number one thing is there a designated person that the child can quickly go and report to? And when the child, the other thing is, we have always said that every school must train all their teachers, all their adults, including the teacher staff, including the man at the gate, including the woman cleaning the toilet. Everybody must know about safeguarding. So that should the child make a disclosure, at least you have somebody, because if a child makes a disclosure to Charity, for example, she would know the designated person in the school to quickly report it to. Because, I mean, taking the life of Sylvester, for example, you will see that from the feedback that children, I mean, I won't say I know the facts of the case in and out. However, from all the things that we've been seeing on social media, the children have made a lot of disclosure that this has been happening, they've been reporting, nobody has been listening, and that is very, very worrisome. Because school owners, school leaders cannot afford to neglect the children. They've got to listen to them. They've got to record incidents. There has to be something in record. There has to be something in writing that you never joke with. Because it's a living thing that you never joke with. So we're talking of the life of the children here and now. So if a child makes a disclosure, the first thing you ask the child to do is, would you like to write it down? If the child cannot write it down, scribe it for them. If the child is in early years, scribe it for them, but also make that child to sign it. So that there's something that the child has taken ownership for, and you need to take an action immediately.
Before we come to
yes, sir.
It's been long since time immemorial we know that there is seniority, even from class 2, you want to say you are a senior of class 1. But, and of course, at times this do lead to bullying. A whole lot of us complained in the past. Our parents will say you will also become a senior, blah, blah, blah. But where do we draw the line?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Don't forget that you'll be very resilient when you go to boarding house. I mean, people will train you because our Yoruba adage would always say, one person gives birth to you, but the community actually goes along. So there are fantastic advantages of children going into secondary schools, particularly in the boarding house, because you can have time to read, you can actually have role models ahead of you. Sometimes the child might be the only child in the house, nobody to actually banter with, nobody to play with, nobody to read with. But when you go to schools, you will see that children have got a lot of people to actually to support them, and the seniors have got positive side. They can, I mean, we do have school mother, school father, and so on. You know, they cater for us, they support us, they hold your hands when you're still very young. However, there are negative sides to it because people do overdo things. And those were things that we saw in Sylvester's case as well, because you will see that they are seniors. And the seniors, how are they managing the children? And those are the kind of understanding that must be in the school. I mean, some schools would tell you that they're not going to put junior secondary schools with the senior secondary school in the hostel. They might have different rooms for them. If you see what I mean, they don't actually bring them together. However, where they are together, school must be able to manage them effectively well to see that the seniors are not actually bullying the children. And another thing is, we as parents, we've got to teach our children. You must be able to tell them to stop. You tell the Goliath to stop. You tell whoever is bullying you to stop. You must be able to know, I mean, every child must be effective enough to be able to tell people to stop. And
are you worried? Are you not worried that the situation is well managed in government schools, state government schools, federal government schools, than in private school, where some of these so-called seniors come from wealthy family and live a larger than life style in school? There are even insinuations, I mean, there have been allegations that some of these students even call the security men and some of the staff by name.
Buy them over.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I must say, the simple is say, it's not to the video at home. And it goes back to parental skills. Unconsciously, if we're not careful, the children from very affluent family, sometimes, I mean, forgive me, I'm not generalizing things now, but people have not trained the children well. Now, because of the problem in education in Nigeria, because you talked about public schools, the parents in public schools will still respect our teachers. But in some of our private schools, parents don't even keep, I mean, they don't even give a thought the way they deal with their parents.
I agree with you.
And when they talk down on parents, I mean, when they talk down on teachers, children can see that.
I agree.
And we say by their fruits we shall know them. Because sometimes the way people actually, we're very downtrodden, the way we deal with our teachers. And those are things that we need to look at. Because you will see that because they're paying school fees, teachers cannot say the truth. And it's not just affecting education, I mean, it's not just affecting behavior, it's affecting the education of the child. Because in some cases, some children are not actually passing well. However, they are teaching them to pass the examination because they don't want the parents to remove the child from school. So because of that, people cannot say the truth anymore in schools. So, I mean, there is a need for us to say, how do we actually review and revamp our behavior policy? Because every parent, if you want to send your child to school, you also, that charity must begin from you. How do you actually how do you support them in the school?
I witnessed a parent who actually was breathing down on the teacher that, I pay school fees as high as what you quoted here for my child education, not for morals. I was shocked.
I know.
We'll take this break. We'll be back.
Your eyes, mouth, and nose. I protect you, and you protect me. Wear your face mask.
This message was brought to you by the Ogun State Government.
Okay, we're still talking to Mrs. Ronke Shuyombo, I say to Governor on Education, and we're looking at bullying in schools, the way out. Charity?
Yeah, the other time, Madam was talking about home training as the basis for this bullying thing. How can we, I would say we will go back and train the parents now on how to train their children, or what do we do in the society, because it's becoming very, very worrisome.
Especially people believe that some people are training criminals. And calling them my beloved son. And they know.
I think it's all encompassing. The society today, we have to be careful, because media is not promoting people with good behavior, really. Forgive me now. And because, children see all our footballers as their role models, the musicians as their role models. Everybody wants to make money. Even the parents don't have the time for those children anymore. Everybody's after who is who. You understand? I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. We've got schools, some of the top schools, where children look at your four-wheel drive and say, is this the kind of four-wheel drive that your dad drives? If it's not the beautiful one, those big ones, they will say, oh, we can't actually be friendly with you because you don't belong to our group. So there's a lot of class issue in schools, and it's been created by parents. Parents have got to really, really go back to the drawing board and see how they can train their children. Children can dress up their hair anyhow to the school. Nobody can actually query that in some of the top schools.
Yeah, sure.
The low-income schools will still understand. You can still tell that child, I don't want to see that, and that child will comply.
Yeah, this hairstyle.
Yeah, this hairstyle. But with the top schools, no. You don't talk to my child. Who are you to talk to my child? And you see a child coming with a mopo to school. You understand what I mean. And I'm not saying it's not going to be affluence, but at the same time, no matter what, let's go back to the drawing board and give our children the good home training. Let's give them the good home training. And not only that, schools also need to go back to the drawing board when we're not just focusing on maths and English. Because if you're not careful, you can get so engrossed with academics, forgetting that you need to teach values. Because in our time, don't forget that they taught us values, and when our parents are coming, in fact, when your parents are coming, the teacher dare not report you. there was fear. Because I remember my mom is coming to school and the teacher is saying, oh, Ronke did this. In fact, I would have wet myself before my mom even arrived. But now it's not like that. There's no fear in those children anymore. And it's because of the way that the parents are dealing with those teachers as well. So the key thing is school must be ready to teach values. Parents must be ready to teach values. And coming back to your question, Charity, we need to also see how we can do a lot of parenting skills. There has to be a lot of parenting skills. People have got to create time out of no time to actually train their children well. If you don't train them well, somebody will train them tomorrow when they get to the cell.
Hakim, please, I have to go. There is a follow-up question. The other time you were talking about types of abuse from boardroom. Are you saying there are emotional bullies too? Because if you're telling your friends because of your dad's car, you can't associate with me, that means emotionally you are draining your friend. So are we saying that there are types of bullying too?
There are so many types of bullying, and I'll also link it to abuse, because you've got the sexual abuse. Some children can be bullied sexually. Because, I mean, a lot is happening now. Even the male children will be running after the junior male children, wanting to have sex with them, oral sex and so on, in the hostels. There are so many things happening. And not only that, there is sexual abuse, there is emotional abuse, and there's neglect as well. Neglect is an abuse. Because if the children, children are coming to school without breakfast. And parents are sending them with the driver to the school without breakfast in the morning. So how are you helping the child? There's no sugar, nothing in the system of the child. And the child is very down. And the other one is, and that's the one, there's physical abuse as well. Because the physical abuse, how are we training the children? And I'm not saying, I'm quite different when it comes to some things. But at the same time, do you put marks on the child? You see some children, they've got iron marks, hot iron. So some parents have abused them, because I remember, I'm not going to mention the name of the school in Lagos when I was DG. You will see that there was a child that was completely battered. The child was completely beaten, everywhere was bruised. And when we went into one of these top schools, they were trying to hide all the details of the parents. But because we gave them 48 hours notice, that we shut you down. And so they had to come up with it. The father, because the child touched the laptop, the father, physically abused the child so much. So things like that, we need to have clear policies in place. Parents have got to be very clear of what their rights are, and at the same time, every child has a right to be treated well. Because at the end of the day, today everybody's talking about Sylvester, the poor child. We have lost him, and we have done a disservice to the life of the child, for God's sake. So that's why we all need to nip it at the bud now and see that there's clear safeguarding policy and child protection policy, and enough of us writing policies that we just dump on the shelf somewhere when nobody is aware of it. Let every parent be part of the policy. Articulate what your vision is, share it with the parents, let them contribute to it, let them sign on the taking, and also let every teacher understand what it is, and also how do we respond to the need of the children. That is key. Because the child might be in a dilemma and nobody is listening to the child. Because of neglect now, look at what has happened. So we've all got to see, how can we be more assertive? How can we actually listen more to those children? Because quite a lot of children are like Sylvester. They are crying at home. We've had cases, even here, where a child is being sexually abused by the stepfather, keeps on telling mommy doesn't want to listen. Mommy will say, just go away. You're just lying about your dad. But the girl gets on being sexually bullied every day. So we need to all listen to our children.
Yes, as a mother, as a parent, I want you to react to this before I come with my question. I'll put them together. Yes, hostels, we have known, has been there from time immemorial, even as early as 9, as 8. Some people have been in the hostel, of course, but just like you said, it has the advantage and disadvantage. Now, when do parents cross the line? I'm asking this because I've seen even parents leaving their children in hostels during holidays, even in the primary school. During holidays, of course, these schools want to make money. They will tell you it's a school is a home away from home. But can it ever be away from when their other ones have left for holidays? What will be the excuse of the parents to keep your wards in hostel of a particular school all through the holidays? That is one. Two, if you look at the issue of Sylvester, if you want to say that there is no how a ruling that brought a trait or some kind of withdrawal system that the parents should have noticed. At a point he said, "Mommy, can you tell Dad to remove me from that school?" What should the mommy have done? I've always said to those people, you might accuse me of anything, but when it comes to children, my children, I'm on red alert. Should parents, if they are on red alert, that wouldn't have happened. What's your view on all this?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinjide. I think the key thing is the 0 to 11-year-old is the formative stage of the child. And that child needs the mother, needs the father, needs the care, needs the love. It needs the foundation to be well laid. And you will see now that we're abusing things. We don't allow our children to actually get to age 11 before they get to secondary school.
Yeah, sure.
And some children are being sent from age 8, age 9, all the way from Abuja to boarding house. And for them to come and start GSS 1 or year 7, it is pathetic. And that's something that every state must be able to come and say no to it. Because there must be a policy that a child must get to a particular age before you can send them out. Because emotionally they're not ready to be on a standalone like that. Then the other thing is, you were saying the red alert that Sylvester actually gave mom a sign. Every parent, as I said, must listen to their children. When last did you dine with the children on the dining table? Find time to sit with them. Find time to ask them how the whole thing has gone. And we must not leave our responsibilities as women to our schools. Because unconsciously, a lot of career people are living, please, with all due respect, I'm not blaming Sylvester's mom now, because I'm sure there are excuses for different things, really. But the key thing is, every parent, when your child comes home and say, "Mom, I don't want to go to that school again, remove me from that school," that to me is a red alert, as you said, sir. And with that, take time. You can even take that child shopping. In the car, "Son, you said something. Why did you say that? What's happening?" Use that small voice to actually get a lot out of your child. And that goes into relationship. Some of our parents don't have relationship with their children.
You also realize that the guy said, "No, never mind. Maybe after saying that, the kind of eyes the mother used were not there.
Yes.
For a child, okay, don't worry, never mind.
Yeah. Because unconsciously, a child wouldn't have said that without meaning it. And that particular phrase is very, very pregnant. It means a lot.
That means the abuse was too much of it.
It must have been too much. And the child must have seen that, look, I don't want to go to that school. I'm scared of all the things happening to me. And those discussions, and that's why there's something we call circle time. Circle time in hostel is very, very important. The hostel mistress must be able to have at least circle time once a week with the children. When you're having circle time with them, if you tear paper and tell them to write problems that they're going through and not to put their names, you will see a lot. You will hear a lot. You understand now? So circle time is very, very, and tell them to put in the basket. When you start opening it, it tells you what is happening in the school. So every school has got to actually have a lot of strategies to bring out whatever is on the mind of the children. And that's why it goes back to, who is that designated person? Can children access you? Or you are somebody that cannot actually listen to the children?
Okay. I think, really sorry. Because of time, you come with your question. I just wanted her to add the place of guardian and counselor here.
Yes.
Like we've missed it in so many schools. How important are they? Do we have them? Are they still relevant? Is the system making them relevant?
We still have counselors in our schools. Not in all our schools, I must confess. However, their job is to actually listen to the children, to support them. And you will see that in every school, when I talked about safeguarding, there must be a cabinet, a lockable cabinet. That is what the policy says. Because there would have been some issues of whatever is happening in schools. How do you keep them And those are the job, or I mean, that's something that a counselor must do. But I feel that we must empower them more, and we must train them to actually be more of 21st century counselors. Because we've seen cases where, I mean, there was a particular counselor when I was Director General as well, where a child was saying, sir, there's a teacher that is always abusing me. You know, the teacher will say, come to me in the office. And when the child gets into the office, come and do blowjob with me. And with that, that child was reporting, but the counselor said, can we just pray together? You need to be led into the way of the Lord. For God's sake, there's a place for church. And there's a place for you to work as a counselor. And because of that, that child was sexually abused for over a year because nobody was listening. So you can be a counselor and be obsolete.
Yeah, so sure, I agree.
You need to actually be a 21st century counselor. We need to train them. We need to actually empower people to understand the rules guiding child protection and safeguarding now.
Okay, madam, let's talk about the non-communication way of talking to our children. Now, Sylvester's case, he spoke to his mom using his words.
Yeah.
What of the actions of the children? Can't we just, you can read your child. You should be able to read your child. So if you read your child and that thing is not coming out well, what should a parent do at that point?
Paying attention to every little detail.
Yes. There are some children that they're naturally very, very quiet. And, but when you have good relationship with them, sometimes you can be playing games. You can set up games at home and you can be playing games with your children and you know where you want to go to. You know where you want to drive at. And let your conversation start bringing out a lot of things. Would you like to, I mean, by the time they're playing games, tell me what happened yesterday. How was school? In fact, all these people, I mean, I had a child that is being bullied in school. Tell me about your own school. What is happening? How is it being done? So tease out things from them. Sometimes some people will use a lot of things that children love. I mean, most of our boys, they love their football a lot. Watch football with them as a mother. Don't be too busy. Watch football with them. Enjoy the football with them. And from there, let it lead into some conversation so that you're not just coming. And occasionally, I mean, this is another tool that is very, very good. Because your child's phone speaks volume. A lot of them would have sent text to their friends. I'm going through this. Because I remember when my children were young, as soon as they go to bed, I set it up because every parent at this stage needs to understand how to filter. Because if you put the security, if you are the admin rights over your child's password, then you can override things. And you can easily read his text messages. I'm not saying it's an abuse, but at the same time, we have to be careful. Yes, but we have to do extra, we have to go extra mile to access our children. Because there are some children of 21st century that they shut down and you can never access them. They're very smart.
I agree with you.
But when you see the kind of, you can visit the sites they are going to.
Yeah.
Because easily, if your child is going, I mean, every child goes on YouTube, but there is red too. If your child is going to all these obscene sites, you've got to quickly flag it out. So there are so many things you can do.
Even from the picture they put on their
Yes, yes, sir.
I mean, you will know.
It speaks volume.
It speaks volume.
Yes,
yeah.
Their WhatsApp messages, the Snapchat, you've got you also, and that's why 21st century mother, we've got to rise to it. Because if not, we'll be sleeping. And we've had cases where mother is upstairs, all she's doing is surfing the WhatsApp and laughing, checking all the video and enjoying herself. But the teacher that is teaching the child downstairs is already abusing the child. So we need to be more assertive. We need to wake up from our sleep.
Now let's talk about the rights of children now. At what age should a child be taught his or her rights? Because we know that there are a lot of laws backing the children, especially in Nigeria. The rights of the children, at what age should they be taught?
You can teach the right from when the child gets into primary school. Even the nursery children, if you tell them that you've got the right to learn in a safe environment, you've got the right to be able to have good education, the child, the only thing is the kind of language you will use at different levels will be very different. What you use at tertiary level is different from what you use at secondary school level and primary school. But every child has a right to actually learn in a safe environment. And every child has got to access learning, whether the child is a special needs child, whether the child is a gifted and talented, because unconsciously we have a lot of Nigerian children that are very gifted and talented, but they learn and they put them together and just make the class to be the same. and that is not really working. And you've got the passive learners, so we've got to take care of everybody. But every child has a right to good learning.
As we go, returning to Sylvester's school,
Yes, sir.
Whether we like it or not, they've got the blame because the bullying has been systematic.
Yes.
And of course, from reports, the boy has been reporting. Nothing done because some form of students at secondary school, it's not, I mean, you cannot begin to think about it, are larger than life, so to say. Most private schools run in isolation, you agree. And if this continues, we haven't seen anything yet. So what should government do? For example, just like you said, if there had been enough supervision in that school, probably the government officials would have seen something that would have said, please separate these little boys from these big boys in the senior school. So what is the lesson here for everybody? The
lesson here, particularly for the government, I must say, is this is a place where you need to empower the Office of Education Quality Assurance. Quality assurance officers, they've got to be empowered. They've got to monitor schools. People have got to realize, ministry has got to enlighten the private schools of what rights they have, of what and what should be done in the different schools. So there has to be more awareness. We have to work with them. They have to know that for you to create schools in any of the states, you've got to comply with the ministry's guidelines at all times. And not only that, parents have also got to realize that it's time that we all, some parents are very, very good, but some parents cannot be bothered that, look, I've sent my child to the school, I'm paying for this, so you go and do this, but we cannot afford to do that in 21st century.
Finally, what do you see as justice here for Sylvester? Because a whole lot of people have come out and say justice should be done. And of course, these little ones too that did this are also kids, so to say, even though there are insinuations that it's more than bullying, it's turning to cultism. This is not the first time we'll be hearing that cultism have got into our secondary school. But what do you consider as justice here?
I must say, it's messing after death, really, because the poor child has lost his life. However, those children must be dealt with. They must not go like that. They must be dealt with, and we expect the legal system to actually take care of that. So it's very, very important.
Thank you. Dealt with or reformed?
Those children must be dealt with, but at the same time, there is a need for schools to look into safeguarding and child protection policy so that we don't have a reoccurrence in all our schools.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ronke Shoyombo, the essay to the Governor on Education. She's been our guest on this very trending issue, bullying in schools, and we'll be looking at the causes, the way out, and the lessons to learn from the latest one that has led to death. That is the case of Sylvester. Once again, I want to thank you very much, that finally you were able to be on the show.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, we'll still be here. That is talking about charity and I. It's the Friday edition of New Dawn. We have another guest right after this.